I was a biology major in college with the aspirations of most people. I was thinking medicine or whatever else, and quickly became apparent when I was in undergraduate that I liked the kind of basic science side better. I got a call from my biochemistry professor as an undergraduate, and this was at Santa Clara University, and she asked me to come in and teach the sophomore biochemistry lab and help them with that. And so I went in and troubleshot all the experiments they were going to do in the laboratory, and worked with the faculty in running that sophomore laboratory. And so I continued my training here. I got lucky and I got a position in the laboratory of Charles Waldron, who was a radiation biologist. And so I became familiar with kind of what was going on here at CSU with treating animals for cancer while doing a bunch of basic science stuff. My first faculty position after that was at the University of Colorado in the School of Pharmacy. And I was hired there because I'd always worked on cancer drug development and how anti-cancer drugs worked and their mechanism of action. The University of Colorado was really expanding their phase 1 clinic and needed somebody to do pharmacokinetics while they were bringing and building this phase 1 clinic. So I was hired at the same time that Dr. Gail Eckhart was brought in to build and kind of expand the phase 1 clinic at the University of Colorado in 1999. It's an interesting question thinking about how I wound up where I wound up. One of the challenges, I came from not one of the big schools in biomedical research. University of Nevada, when I was there, was 12,000 people. The medical school was very small. So my training came from there, and then basically Colorado State and the University of Colorado. So having good mentors, both direct mentors. My PhD advisor, Chris Pritzos, was outstanding, helping me get where I needed to be. Charles Waldron here at Colorado State, David Ross at the University of Colorado. They really gave me, a lot of good advice and good mentorship. The other large kind of barrier was that my wife and I met in graduate school. We're both came out of the same program in pharmacology and physiology, and we're both trying to find jobs at the same time. So, the big barriers have just been, how do you get access to the people and talk to people? And it's really just a process of going up, talking to people, introducing yourself, and just doing what you're doing in a forward motion, and not really just kind of with the concept it's going to work out. And luckily for Don and I, it has our whole career. Just the ability to move on. We got very lucky to be able to stay here in Colorado as I met a lot of people in Colorado, and from CSU to CU. I mean, we certainly looked at other places at times, and I was recruited by other places. But luckily, the kind of CU-CSU interaction has been very favorable to both of us. More than anything, I would probably just say trust your instincts. Keep doing what you're doing, and don't make any dramatic changes. And luckily, I never had to make any type of big moves or big changes, and was able to stay in the field I trained in with regards to kind of cancer chemotherapy, thinking about how to treat cancer with drugs, and so just stay the course. Be committed to your principles and the science that you want to do. You lay a foundation of your publication record and your trainees in science. Your legacy is what you've published and who you've trained and how they've moved on. Success is when people can look at the work you've done and be able to easily repeat it, or to utilize it to make as some type of building block for any future research or things that they're doing. Science is a process, and I always talk about this. It's not the outcome, it's the process. When I train people, in that you do it right. If you do it right, it can be reproduced. If you do it right, you don't have to worry about overanalyzing the data. And to me, success is setting up the experiments, doing the experiments, working the right way. In teaching and training, it's having people that look back and had a positive experience, and you accomplish the goal of training skilled, qualified, honest scientists who can go forward and do those things. That's how I define success. Fort Collins is, from here, you can be in Laurie State Park in 15 minutes. and there's 30 breweries in this town. And the things I like to do, I play a lot of golf. I usually ride my bike to work. I live about it's mostly on bike trails and through Rolandmore Park. And so I think connection to community, the kind of being outdoors, doing things, seeing things, smelling things. So that the decompression is easy. I grew up riding dirt bikes, so me and my son still ride dirt bikes up in the hills. He's 25 now and is a chemical engineer in Rawlins, Wyoming, but he'll still come home, he'll play golf with me. My daughter's actually at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus, is an MD PhD student doing her PhD with Haida Ford, and will go back to medical school next year. She had a lot of family stuff. We do a lot of camping and hiking, and we've always done that since the kids were little. And again, taking advantage of living in Colorado. I think the most important thing to me in science is sticking to the process and being honest. And it's a huge issue in science today. I was just reading an article in the Atlantic today about these paper mills and how much fabricated science exists today. And with a lot of the pressure that's put on, sticking to the process, being honest, and making sure whatever we publish somebody could reproduce. I think that's a very important component and kind of what drives me and how I try to teach people and how I try to think about people. Integrity is more important than productivity sometimes. And I always tell graduate students, don't try to make data fit the narrative. The narrative has to be defined by the data. That's really how the kind of guiding principle when I try to train students and think about what we're doing. Just make sure when you go home at night it's easy to sleep, because what you've done is reproducible, correct, and honest. I think the most exciting thing to me is the incorporation of patient-specific data to get the right drug, the right treatment, how those treatments come about, and really changes the numbers with regards to the efficacy of treatments. Mortality associated with cancer and the morbidity associated with cancer have gone down dramatically over the last 25 years, and certainly during my career. Immunotherapy is now in the hip pocket of oncologists. So now you have surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, targeted therapy, immunotherapy. And as we learn to use those all together, we're just going to see more and more advancements. And certain tumor types are going to become more curable. I'm excited that the toolbox has gotten so big. I'm excited that the information to provide to the tool user has gotten so much larger. It's exciting to see those developments come into play as we learn how to use those tools better. I have a saying, if you have to tell everybody you're in charge, you're not in charge. What I try to convey is that nobody works for me, they work with me. And as we go forward. So leadership's not about making rules or telling people what to do. Leadership's about leading by example and having people want to do and work in the context of what you're trying to achieve. So I think my style's one of number one, trust. You have to trust people. Reminding everybody that everybody has a skill set that other people don't have, that there's nobody that knows everything. I always tell graduate students, the best thing about being a scientist is I get to learn something new every day. Whether it be a paper I read or an interaction with somebody or some data that I analyzed, you're constantly evolving and learning and doing things, and you should always be adapting. Show them, hey, this is the way I think that this should be done, and this will lead to success for all of us.